We are here with a brief guide on how to use the DiceCloud D&D character tracker for 5e. As you can see, we're looking at the open page here for DiceCloud. That's just dicecloud.com. And as you can see, first thing I'm going to point out is that we do have the guide here. Really good information in this guide, something really worth looking through and reading through. I consider it pretty much required material, in fact. It's going to give you a good walkthrough of the basics. Just in case you want to refer back to that, open up in a new tab. However, in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go back home. We're going to take a look at characters. You can see I have a number of characters already set up, and I'm just going to create a completely new one here. We'll just call this character. This is a character I've had half in the back of my head for a potential idea, so we'll just give that just borrow that name. You just fill in the character name, gender, race, just to start. It's going to create a new character for you. Go through, add the sheet, and what you get it to start with is just this basic outlook on your character. Everything is set to 10 by default. 10 armor class. You don't have any speed yet. Don't have any initiative. The nice thing about DiceCloud is that it calculates everything automatically, and it does it in a dynamic way. So if you get, for instance, a magic item that increases your constitution to a minimum of 19, it's going to automatically update your constitution to reflect 19. It'll be a +4 automatically, even if you have, say, minus, or a +1 or a -4. So you can also see there's a scale here for hit points. Right now we don't have any hit points at all, so we're seeing a death save entry. But let's just go ahead and just start the bare bones setup. Always start with the journal. This is where you're going to take down notes if you want to on this character sheet. But more importantly, this is where you're going to track your experience, your level, and your classes. So right here you can see we have level 0. There is a little plus sign. Once we open that up, it's going to add a new class. We're going to start him out as a fighter. And you want to make sure you keep in mind what you enter as a class name. Now, some people might want to be more detailed, might have a custom class, whatever. Try to keep this name short and simple, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But try to keep it short, simple, preferably just one word. You can set your initial starting level. We'll start at level 5. And then you're going to see two buttons here. One is add effect, one is add proficiency. Effect is just going to be various bonuses that you gain right away as a new fighter. I have in another window all the little bonuses and such that I could have as a fighter. So I'm just going to go through, and I know that my saving throws, I have proficiency, which is actually not an effect, it's a proficiency. So I'm just going to go here, saving throw, proficiency with strength saves and constitution saves. I'm just going to add one for each. Strength save, proficient, add, saving throw, constitution, proficient. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this for the moment. You can see right now that's listed on proficiencies. You can see level 5. Now when I go here, we can see we have the race and we have fighter. And now if I look at stats, guess what? It now highlights both strength and constitution as being proficient. Easy. You can click on it. Shows you that you are proficient from your fighter class. It also shows you what the bonus is for proficiency, the bonus from constitution, which right now is nothing, but that's alright. We'll come back and keep editing that. Go back here, reopen fighter, click on the pencil to edit it, and we're back into this window. I'm going to go ahead and keep adding proficiencies. Weapons. Just type in a name here in this case. Since we're proficient with everything as a fighter, I'm just going to type in simple weapons. And martial weapons. I do like to enter these as separate entries. That's just me. You don't necessarily have to. You could type in simple, common, martial, however you want to fill it in. It's not that important. Just makes it a little easier to sort through for me. Armor proficiencies. course, shields is under armor as well. Okay. We don't have any tools with the fighter class by default. We do get to choose a couple of skills, so just to make this easy, I'm going to go ahead and choose animal handling. Sounds fun. And let's go ahead and add athletics. I mean, he's a warrior. We should know how to move around, right? Effects wise, we don't really have anything except we need to set up our hit dice and our hit points. So here's the trick. This is a stat for hit points. Base value is going to be, the system is smart enough to automatically add your constitution bonus for you. So all you have to do is go 5 times fighter level. Now, remember I said to be careful to keep that class name relatively short, preferably just one word? Well, now you can see why. Anytime you see a field that has this light bulb, this is a formula field, which means you can type in certain keywords that act to create a formula. In this case, we're saying multiply the fighter level times, actually I should be saying 6 because that's the average die level. And then for that first level, we're just going to add +4. Okay. So that's just a really short, succinct way of saying for every level, I get 6 more hit points, and then add the +4 that I'm missing because I get all 10 on the first level. Back out of effect, and you can see it shows hit points 34. I am going to go back in there and just make sure. We want to make sure to set that as the base value. The first entry we always want to set as a base value because there are other features that might change how that's calculated. So just for fighter, we're going to set that as base level. If I come back later and add another class, then I would just add more points. Okay. I'm going to also add hit die, which is another stat. Oh no, I take it back. They've adjusted it a little bit. So D10 hit dice, value, fighter level, which is just a really short way of saying take the level of the class named fighter. Okay. And I do like to do one thing. You can see here we have a little paint bucket drop down and a bunch of different colors you can use. I like to color code my entries. So from now on, I'm going to know anytime I see this dark blue on any of my other entries, on features, on persona, on journal, that's something related to fighter. It makes it a little bit easier to keep track of the various items and such that you're looking at. Okay. And we can go back, we can see here's our saving throw, here's our constitution, here's our animal handling, here's our athletics, proficiencies, both set up. Again, click on it, tells you exactly where that's coming from. You can see up here we have some hit points. I have 34 hit points by default. Really nice thing is I can just adjust my HP just by dragging this back and forth. You can see there's a little tiny pop-up that shows you how many HP I've added or removed. Makes it real nice and easy if you're not playing on something like Power VTT, or if you're not playing on Roll20. If you're using this for an actual sheet, well, guess what? You can use it for an actual sheet really easy just by doing that. Okay. So now we have our basic setup for the class, but we get certain abilities from human, right? Same general idea here. We're just going to go ahead and enter the features for human. I'm going to go ahead and set up as a human variant. So once again, we're just going to go add effects, hits, ability scores, saving throws, various skill bonuses, stats like hit points, temporary hit points, armor, dexterity armor bonus, all sorts of stuff. You just want to kind of take some time and look through here what all is available. Spell slots, our hit dice we already determined is here, and weaknesses and resistances, those are all effects. In this case, we're just going to set up our ability scores. I'm going to go ahead and choose for now +1 strength and +1 dexterity. Now I can always come back here and adjust that. You're going to notice on both of those I left that as add, and I'll show you why again in just a moment here. But because we are adding, we want this to add on to our base scores so that when we look at our dexterity stat, we can see, okay, my base score is this. I get a bonus from there. I get a bonus from there. Oh, look, I have a magic item that actually sets a new base score, which is higher, you know, as a minimum number. So we're just going to set that and go ahead and let it close down again. Gain proficiency in one skill of my choice. So I'm going to go ahead and this time we will make it intimidation. And we also gain a feat, but we'll come back to that in a minute. We do get a couple languages. Again, we're just going to add a skill. Language. Common. Everybody knows common. And one extra language of our choice. We'll say Dwarvish for this character. Actually, for the actual setup, we're just going to say Celestial, but alright. And again, we're just going to go back. You can see here's our strength. It's now showing +1. You can see our base score from the base ability scores, which we'll touch on in just a moment. We got our +1 from human. You can see our total. It even gives us some useful quick calculations. Shows you encumbered weights. Shows you your running long jump, standing long jump. Not all of the stats do that, but you get some insight as to where the stuff is coming from. We can also click on features, and you can see here, well, here's all my proficiencies. Here's simple weapons. I can see that came from fighter. It shows everything that came with fighter. And then we have base ability scores. This is where we're going to set up the base ability scores. Exactly what it sounds like. I actually need to go ahead and roll for this. So let's do that right now. Not horrible scores. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pop in here. I just rolled this in a Discord channel. Nice thing is we have our description, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy in the defaults because I like to keep track of where my roll came from and what the originals were, just in case. Now, the thing to understand about the description fields is that they are markdown. So I gotta go through, I'm just adding a couple spaces after each line so that it properly wraps. And then the other thing you need to understand is that by adding 3 dashes like that, you can set up a short description. So I'm just going to say 15, 14, 14, 13. I can't type tonight apparently. 12, 11, and I got 2 15s in there, or am I just blind? No, I just rolled 6 iterations. So I've got 8 in there too. Okay. Now what that looks like is, you can see here, the only thing that's showing is just the stat array that I ended up with. That makes it really easy to do a quick summary and then keep all the information elsewhere still within there and just see it when it's expanded. Alright, so we have our little fighter well on his way. Now we're just going to go through, and you can see here, this is set as the base value. I'm going to make that my 15 for dexterity. I'm going to go ahead and make constitution my 14. Actually, I'm going to make it my 13 because I can come back here and I can give that my extra hit point, or my extra stat point. So I actually get a modifier for free. And we're going to go ahead and do Charisma 14. Strength can be my 11. I got fighter without strength. I know it's crazy, but that's alright. I have ideas. Not necessarily going to be the brightest. And for wisdom, we'll go ahead and say 12. Okay. So, you can see now if I go back to the stats, well, guess what? All of our stats are populated in. You can even see that it has added our +1s. There's our base ability score. There's our +1 again. All right. But I want to take that +1 that I put in strength. I actually want to put that on constitution instead. So I'm going to go back to journal. I'm going to go over to human, edit, and I'm just going to go down to where I said strength, and I'm going to change that constitution. Back, go back to stats, and guess what? 11 strength, 14 constitution, and I'm on my way. Got a decent amount, you know, not too bad health. You can see it's already updated. It's now 44 instead of 32. And now, as long as we're on this page, let's go ahead and just touch on this. If you click on the plus, you get to add another hit point slider. So let's say that I have, inspiring leader hit points. Come on. Hit point maximum. Read what it's doing. I got 13 today. And I'm going to set that to delete when 0. Guess what? Now I have a second HP bar. That's temporary HP. I know it is, so I just take that off first. Go down, and now it's gone as soon as I've used up those hit points. You can also set up a bar that does not go away. Easy. Okay. So we're coming along here. We've got the basics set up. I'm going to go ahead and go to persona. This is where you can go in and just add some additional information. Say he's lawful good. I don't have a picture for him right now, and that's all right. You can fill in the description for him. You can fill in personality traits, ideals, bonds. There's entries for all these. And you can see here that it does list the languages I know on the persona page. Again, you can see where the source of that is. Spells. This particular character isn't going to have spells, so I'm going to go ahead and go up here to the configuration, settings. I'm just going to hide the spells tab. Okay, no more spells. Don't need to clutter that up. So, oops. Am I losing my connection? Just going to go ahead and reload, probably because I was on the wrong sheet when I did that, so there we go, yeah. Because I was on the spells tab when I closed it out, so I kind of lost track of what I was doing. Alright, as you can see here, we also have all of our skills are now automatically calculated properly. You can see the defaults. I'm not proficient, there's my dexterity. I am proficient, there's my wisdom plus my proficiency. So now we can come back here, and I'm going to take a look at the features page. This is where you list all of your various features and abilities. This is where it comes in really handy, like I said, to do that color coding. So we've already said that blue is going to be for warrior features, fighter features. What I like to do is I just copy all the information in. I like to start with a level indicator. Just to keep things in order. It's going to order it by color first, and then by the name. So LO1 fighting style. And this is going to be always active. I'm going to go ahead and just copy. I have this open in another window. I'm just going to copy everything in. Now, this is in the description. Like I said, this handles markdown. So I'm going to go ahead and mark down some bold. Clean up the formatting a bit. And I don't really have to do all this information. This is just me. I like to enter it all, just so I have it handy. should have done here was set those up as headers. But like I say, this does support standard markdown, so as you can see, I'm just entering in markdown codes for headers, markdown code for bold, italic. If I were awake, I wouldn't be doing this twice because I would have done it the right way the first time, but you know. For this character, I think we'll go ahead and just pick defense. So I'm going to go ahead and add my triple dash, and I'm just going to record defense. I'll copy it right from below. Only this time I'm not going to now when I save that, interesting, not taking my headers, my header lines. That's all right, we'll come back to that later. Point is, you can see that it's showing just what was above that triple line, so I can see at a glance that's what I kept for that level. When I open it, I can see all the rest of the information. Nice and easy. All right. So that's the first thing we gotta do. I'm gonna go ahead and change the color here. I like to change that, any of the class stuff, because we gotta go ahead and add some additional, we gotta add our racial stuff. Let's see here. For this one, you guys aren't going to recognize this at first unless you happen to have read the excellent Rule of Law home rule by Irish Bandit in the Discord of Many Things. But the short version is it just gives me some bonuses to working with a whip. By now, you might be getting an idea that I have a specific plan for that character, and his name might just possibly be a reference to something. I don't know. Go figure. I'm not gonna bother filling the rest of that out. I just want a spot to keep track of it for now. So all you really gotta do here is just go in, go through, add your features. You can see that, like on the journal page when you added the class, we have several buttons. The difference here is we have a couple more. We also have an add attack. So if, for instance, you're a monk, you have unarmed attack, you can add attacks for that right here through the features. And the really nice thing is, if you go ahead and add that feature in, you can also set it to be enabled and disabled. So if for whatever reason you happen to put on armor, guess what? You no longer have that attack, and you can see when it's enabled, it just shows up here in the attacks list. When it's disabled, it disappears. That's actually going to be one of the really key things that's useful for setting up in DiceCloud. Is everything is dynamically and immediately responsive. So if you have a feature which is only enabled for a certain period of time, guess what? You can click a use, you can enable it, and it will be there for a period of time. It'll adjust your stats accordingly, it'll adjust your attacks accordingly, and when it's not there. So your sheet is always telling you the correct information as long as you're taking the time to mark it correctly. For me, I'm going to go ahead and just take a second wind in. It's always enabled, but we only get one use arrest. You can notice here, this is a formula field. We'll come back to why that's important later, but it means we can do a formula just like on the class page. We also have this curly bracket field, which is the same idea, except that any formulas you write need to be inside of brackets like that. And I'll show you why that's important. So we have, oops, second wind. Ugh. Recover. Plus 1d10. This is just a real short, succinct, but you'll notice that I wrapped that fighter level in curly brackets. I know why I did that. It's because I forgot to add a space. That's all right. Alright, so we have that. We have our limited uses. We have the name. We have our color coding set. If you want to, you can actually add this as an attack. There's no attack bonus to speak of. The damage is 1d10 plus fighter level. And there's not really a attack type, but, well, you don't have a choice but to set one. And technically, that works. But you can see here, now one thing you should notice is that every time I've done that triple dash, the text that's going to be shown when it's not expanded like this is shown in larger text. Just another way of seeing, you know, what you have as the quick text. But the big thing is, remember I typed in fighter level there. Well, as you can see here, it shows us the actual conversion. Instead of showing me fighter level, it shows me 5. If I go to journal and I go to fighter and I change the level to 10 and go back here, well, guess what? Now it's 10 plus 1d10. You can start to see some of the usefulness of the features here. There's really useful formulas out there if you spend a little time. There's ways to calculate monk damage die automatically for unarmed damage. You know, calculate out what that is by level. There's ways to calculate what warlock slot you should have. All sorts of really useful stuff that is calculated automatically, and you can enter the formula and it will adjust on demand. For now, I'm going to set him back to level 5. And we're back to level 5. So, now, as you may have guessed by now, I tend to be a little picky about stuff like this. So since I know what I did, because I wasn't quite awake when I did it, I'm just going to go back and fix that titling real quick before it drives me insane. So you can see now it's actually recording those headers correctly. So, that's really all you need to do to set up a character sheet in DiceCloud. You just go through, add your stuff, add your features, add formulas where you need to. The last page we really want to touch on is the inventory. You can see your general net worth. You can see how much weight you're carrying. Not all campaigns are worried about the amount of weight you're carrying, but some campaigns are. So guess what? This calculates it out for you. It shows you exactly how much weight you have, how much you can carry. There are a couple important sheets, and then there are a couple important entries here to look at. You do have a coin pouch, which is just a container type. So we'll take a look at that first. Container. This is just, you know, hey, my character has a backpack. Weight, I think, is 10, you know, I forget exactly what the weight is off the top of my head. I think it's like 10 pounds in the PHP. Value is, I think, 2 gold. Doesn't really matter if I'm right or wrong here. It's just filling it out quickly. We'll give it a color to make it a little easier to track. And that's a container. Now, the nice thing about containers is once you have them, you can start sorting your inventory into them. So you have a backpack, you have a bag of holding, you have a bag of devouring, you have a Heward's handy haversack, you have a Quillona's quiver, you want to set up belt pouches, anything like that. You can use that for organizing your inventory. It can be something that you don't actually even have technically, you just use it for sorting. I like to add a couple of containers for here, like unsorted. I use that for keeping track of gear I haven't had a chance to sort through yet. I have a container to buy. I I use that to jot down items that I want to make sure I buy the next time I'm in town. And its partner is to sell. I'll drop items there that I want to make sure I sell the next time I'm in town. So it's just, you know, there's ways you can leverage the system to make it easier to find the various things as you look at these pages. Okay, so we have that basic setup done. Now we can go back here. We're just going to add another thing. First off, you can add an item for freehand, which you're going to be doing a lot of. Let's face it, the vast majority of stuff is not an SRD. DiceCloud is an SRD compliant site, so while it has stuff from the D&D 5e SRD in it, it does not have everything from the PHB, the DMG, the Monster Manual, or every possible homebrew out there. So guess what? Get used to entering information on your own. It's going to happen. Doesn't have to be incredibly detailed if you don't want to be. I'm being more detailed than most probably will. Just get used to writing at least a name. Hey, we'll say he has a whip that happens to be named, come on, I'm going to say that it is equipped. Does require attunement. I could show increment buttons, which we'll touch on later. I'm going to point out, though, as we're adding this, DiceCloud has this thing where you can set a quantity. Well, you can set a quantity and you can set a plural name, but in order to set the plural name, you have to have at least 2 in your inventory. So I always take the time to add at least 1 and set the plural name, because otherwise it drives me nuts. Once I've set the plural name, I hide it again. It can be equipped or it can be in a container. We'll come back to that in just a minute. For right now, we want it equipped. Weight, it's half a pound. So we just type in 0.5 for half a pound. Value, we're not going to bother putting a value on it because it is quite priceless as a magical item. You can drop in your description here. All the interesting little juicy tidbits your DM told you when you gave you the item. Alright, so we've got the Vampire Killer Whip. That's killer with 2 L's, if I'm paying attention. This is a weapon, so we want to add an attack. Well, now we come back down here to attacks. I mean, this happens to be a finesse weapon. Blech. No, I can't type and I can't spell tonight, folks. Okay. And because it's a whip, it also has reach. We know that. So we're going to go ahead and add the details. Because it's finesse, we want to use a special code. We want to say max strength mod, dexterity mod. Okay, so here's the trick. Every attribute has one of these modifiers. You can say strength mod, dexterity mod. Saying max means pick whichever is higher. So when I go around to see my attack, it's going to show me dexterity because my dexterity is higher, is a higher modifier. Same trick right down here in this. And this is a parenthesis, by the way, not a curly bracket. Max strength mod, dexterity is going to automatically change the damage to do appropriate to, automatically do the correct modifier again, the higher modified. So that's an attack. Let's say this also gives us a effect. Actually, first off, this is a magic whip, so it probably has a +1 bonus, or probably at least a +2 actually. So we'll just go ahead and add that to the calculations. We'll go up here and let's say that this particular weapon gives us a resistance to necrotic damage, because we all know vampires like to suck blood, and hey, not the most healthy of things, but nicely enough, this vampire killer whip just happens to do something with that. Point is, once we have all this in, I'm just going to give it a red color here. Now I've added that. It is marked on my attuned pile. You can see that equipment says attuned and just plain equipment. So you're not going to attune to your regular old leather tunic, but you know, your vampire killer, guess what? You're attuned to it. Makes it a little bit easier to track what you're attuned to, what you're not attuned to. The other nice thing is, once it's on here, once we have an item added, all we have to do is click and drag, and we can put it in any other container. Here's our carried, which means I'm just carrying it right now. Now I'm going to drop it in the backpack. I'm going to buy one of these, not that I possibly could. I want it back in equipment. You can just click and drag it right over from point to point. Makes it really quick and easy to organize your equipment. Back on features, you're going to see that we have Vampire Killer, which is a +8 mod, 1d4 +3 +2 slashing. Again, you can see it picked the correct modifier. We can click on it, shows you the whole information from the whip, and off we go. Last thing I'll point out here is we do have item from library. So like I said, DiceCloud does support the SRD. We can go ahead and search for various items like a longbow, longsword, and click once and hit OK. It's going to drop it in carried for us. We don't want that equipped. But as you can see, when we open it up, it has the weight, it has the value, it has the attack already attached on there, except for, this is longsword, not longbow, so yeah. Even tells us that it's versatile, slashing damage, 1d8 plus strength mod. So you don't necessarily have to enter everything, but there are things, like I said, there are things you're going to have to enter, so get used to it. So yeah, that's just a real quick, painless way of using DiceCloud. You don't necessarily have to use every little bit of it. I like to get everything set up. I tend to plan my characters all the way out to level 20 from before I ever play a game, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Just grab what you're absolutely going to have to use immediately, come back, keep fleshing it out as you need to. Last thing I'm going to bring up here is you can add experience, which is just quick, easy. For those of you who use milestones, no worries, but you can give a general idea of where you got that experience from if you want to. And again, the journal tab does allow you to take just general notes. So take a new note, write it in your description. Full markdown field, you can use that. One thing I do recommend is actually typing these up in a separate editor and then pasting them in. I've had some minor glitches on the notepad, on the journal pad, where when you start typing in long text, it gets just a little wonky. Be aware of that, but don't worry about it too much. So yeah, here we have the beginnings of Simeon Bellarmond, a whip-wielding vampire hunter. I wonder where that idea came from. Thanks for sticking with me for a little bit here, folks. I hope you enjoy. Check out DiceCloud. It is well worth looking into. It's very useful. So have a good one.